Hey guys, my name is Hunter Dunn, and I am doing my final project on Colin Kaepernick. I actually did this project a couple semesters ago, but I wanted to do it again because I thought it was interesting, and a few things have happened since then. The biggest thing I can relate it to is probably collusion and somewhat of a race issue. But yeah, let's get started. So this all started when Kaepernick sat during the national anthem in a preseason game in 2016. It was a huge thing between the players and owners and athletes in other sports and politicians, and then obviously it included Donald Trump. This whole thing started 2.5 years of protests, formal grievances, and vigorous denunciations. Back in February of 2016, Kaepernick actually settled a grievance case against the NFL, but that came to an end back then. So starting on August 26th of 2016, Kaepernick, once again, still playing for the San Francisco 49ers, he remained seated for a home preseason game, and he actually was quoted saying, "I'm not going to stand up to show my pride in a flag for a country that oppresses black people and people of color." He had been extremely outspoken about issues like protests by white supremacists and police shootings of unarmed black men. And he went on to say, "If they take football away, my endorsements from me, I know that I stood up for what is right." And the league actually responded to his sitting during the national anthem and said, "Players are encouraged but not required to stand during the playing of the national anthem." September 1st of 2016, Kaepernick started to kneel for the anthem. And he started kneeling. I don't know how many people know this. A veteran came up to him or got in contact with him somehow and told him that sitting was disrespectful, but if he kneels, that's basically, it's a lot more respectful than sitting down for the anthem, because a lot of people can't necessarily stand up for the anthem. So kneeling would probably be the best resolution if he wanted to keep taking this action towards protesting and trying to figure out exactly what's going on. And as he's kneeling, Kaepernick gets booed throughout the game. No surprise. And then a few days later, September 5th, 2016, Barack Obama, former president, actually defended Kaepernick, and he said, "I think he cares about some real legitimate issues that have to be talked about." And then 2 days later, September 7th, Roger Goodell told the AP, Associated Press, I don't necessarily agree with what he's doing, which, I mean, it makes sense. It gives, at that time, no one had ever really done something like this before, so it gave a really bad image to the NFL as a whole. And then here we got some pictures of Megan Rapinoe. This was a huge thing. Actually, I think this past World Cup, this picture was taken in 2016 of her kneeling. But she was definitely a big supporter of Kaepernick, and I remember this being a huge deal this past World Cup for the women. Obviously, most of her teammates supported her, all of her teammates supported her, but just like Colin Kaepernick, she was very much just, I guess the right word to say is just kind of trashed on. I guess the difference between her and Kaepernick right now is that she still has a job and he doesn't. And here in the other picture we have some Miami Dolphins kneeling for the anthem. That's just a random picture. Let's see. September 11th, 2016, week 1 of the actual season, several more players start to kneel, and then they start actually raising fists, and then 4 days later is when the whole Megan Rapinoe thing of her kneeling begins, and then the entire Indiana Fever team of the WNBA kneels, and it seemed like everybody started to just kind of gather around Kaepernick through this entire thing. January 1st, 2017, Kaepernick continues to protest, he continues to kneel, continues to try and point out and get attention to what is right. That season, he ended up starting 11 games. They finished 2-14. He didn't have the best season. A lot of people attribute this last season he played to actually not being in the NFL anymore, which it makes a lot of sense because he was very, very bad. In March of 2017, he opts out of his contract. He hopes for a better situation. Nobody offers him, and then this is when everybody starts to think that he's being blackballed. And in the preseason, and early August begins, and he's still unsigned. The anthem protests continue. And then this is prompted by the violence in Charlottesville, Virginia. And then September 24th, this is September 24th, 2017. This is when the protests kind of reach their height, reach their peak, if you want to say. This is after Trump basically had his whole little rant on Twitter and at some rally, I don't really know what it was, and he said that if they kneel, they should be fired, which is kind of ridiculous, considering going back up to what the league first said, by saying players are encouraged but not required to stand during the playing of the national anthem. So I don't really know where Donald Trump kind of gets. I mean, it's still his opinion. I get that, but I don't really necessarily know where he gets off on trying to say that they should be fired when it's not really his job or his duty to do that. Soon, players begin to skip the national anthem altogether. They continue to kneel. They continue to lock arms. And then, in some cases, there are team owners joining in. Protests continue throughout the entire 2017 season, and Trump continues to fault the league for not disciplining their players in the right way. And then October 15th, 2017, Kaepernick, who is still unsigned, files a grievance against the NFL, where he accuses all 32 teams of colluding to keep him out of the league. Which, like, going back, it's pretty easy for the NFL to kind of sit there and say, well, you kind of sucked your last year, so this is why you're not signed. And it's obviously very easy for Kaepernick to turn around and say, well, I started doing this protesting thing last year, this is why I'm not signed, and it's just been a whole back and forth since then. So on May 2nd, 2018, Eric Reed, who is a safety for the Carolina Panthers right now, he also filed a grievance against the NFL, saying the league has blackballed him. So he joins Kaepernick. He's very much on Kaepernick's side. Joins Kaepernick in this whole protest situation. And then on May 23rd, 2018, this was a big rule that was passed, and I'm pretty sure has since gone away. NFL owners rule that players can no longer kneel during the national anthem without leaving themselves open to punishment. The league also said that they can stay in the locker room while it's being performed. I'm pretty sure since this ruling was made, it has gotten waived and it's not there anymore. I don't necessarily think it's fair because it's a whole freedom of speech thing. August 30th of 2018, Kaepernick actually won his grievance case, or won an important part of his grievance case against the NFL. On September 3rd of 2018, Kaepernick became the face and voice of Nike's Just Do It slogan, which prompted a lot of people to go on Twitter, go on Facebook, go on Instagram, whatever social media site you prefer, or that you look at the most, you would have seen it, to basically destroy, burn, cut, tear apart any Nike apparel they may have, whether it be shoes, socks, shirts, shorts, underwear, like it didn't matter. There were a lot of videos out there of that stuff happening. On February 15th of this year, 2019, the NFL reached a settlement with Kaepernick and Eric Reed in their grievance cases. I find this interesting because Eric Reed has a job, Colin Kaepernick doesn't. I'm not saying, again, that he deserves a job. I think he's good enough to be a backup, where Eric Reed is a starting safety, so he has that behind him, which I think, at that point, when you look at these two, obviously Kaepernick's the front runner, Eric Reed's not. Eric Reed kind of followed him. If Eric Reed's able to get a job because he's good enough to get a job, then this whole thing goes back to Kaepernick. It's like, well, you know, you're not necessarily good enough to really get a job right now, so I don't necessarily understand why you keep pinning this on us as the NFL. A few things have happened this year, actually in the past week or so. Colin Kaepernick has, he wanted a workout, he got a workout. The NFL actually organized the entire workout for him at the Atlanta Falcons stadium, and he was set to go there, and I think there were like 25 teams ready to attend, or like scouts, GMs, whatever you want to say, people representing the team. And right before, like an hour before it started, where like scouts and stuff were already walking into the stadium to get ready, Kaepernick decided to change locations and basically just leave it all behind, you know, which I thought was really, really weird. And then Stephen A. Smith took to his show First Take and Twitter and whatever social media he has to basically say this is ridiculous. Like he doesn't want to play, he just wants attention. He's running from the NFL. It makes a lot of sense when you look at it that way, because he's not necessarily doing it. Like, he changed his location. It seemed like a big PR stunt. And right now, it seems like he's losing this case. He's losing this battle with the NFL, especially after that. I think if he would have had his regular workout at Atlanta at the Falcons Stadium, everything would have been fine. Everything would have been completely normal. But he didn't. And then, obviously, Eric Reed went to defend him on Twitter against Stephen A., basically saying that doesn't make any sense to Stephen A., and was like, you got to stick up for your people. A lot of people are actually disagreeing with what Stephen A. is saying. So to tie this all back into any certain legal issues, obviously Kaepernick filing the grievance case against the NFL. Obviously, he filed the grievance because he thought all 32 teams were colluding to keep him out. I think it goes into the First Amendment rights, freedom of speech, allowing players to not necessarily do what they want, because you can't necessarily do it. There's still rules. The NFL still has rules. It's still an employer. You can't necessarily do whatever you want, but there's still freedom of speech when it comes to things like the national anthem, or like the Pledge of Allegiance, or something like that. Like, you don't have to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'm a big believer, or not a big believer, but I'm a big, like, I really believe in freedom of speech, and I kind of feel like people have their own beliefs, so who's somebody else to tell this person that they can't necessarily do this? I don't think it's necessarily fair, but, yeah, so those are basically the three things: grievance, collusion, freedom of speech. Those are the three things that have been tied to this entire case. So that's going to be it. Thank you, guys.